I drove from New York to Philly last night, and I saw all those billboards. Boy, they're starting. This is battleground Pennsylvania, and it is going to be a very, very important few months for you. How's it looking?
You know, it's great to be with you. I feel good. The energy that we've seen for Vice President Harris over this last few weeks has been electric. We've seen thousands of new people sign up to volunteer. We've seen the campaign really get off on a good start in terms of fundraising. People are excited in Pennsylvania. So as the vice president said in that clip earlier, we're going to organize, we're going to mobilize, and we're going to defeat Donald Trump at the ballot box. And I'm confident with the work that we're going to do in Pennsylvania, she's going to be victorious come November.
When you look at the various battleground states, they all have a little bit of a different flavor, something that has to happen in order to win. And when you look at Pennsylvania over the years, nobody, except in statewide elections, but presidential elections tend to be a little bit tighter in Pennsylvania all the time. It's a place where you got to fight for every 10, 100, 1,000 votes. What's the thing that's going to make the difference for Kamala Harris? Because either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump need Pennsylvania in order to become president.
Look, I think the contrast is clear in this election. We have a vice president who's been fighting for working people, fighting to defend our democracy and standing up for reproductive freedom. And we have a former president who, quite frankly, is trying to take us backwards, who wants to divide us, who wants to make sure that certain Americans don't succeed. We saw that highlighted in the disrespect that he showed at the NABJ earlier today. And the contrast is clear. And I think at the end of the day, Pennsylvanians are going to vote for a brighter future. They're going to vote to protect our freedoms, and they're going to vote to secure our democracy right here in the birthplace of our democracy by electing Kamala Harris as our next president.
Talk about NABJ. What did you see when you watched that? Because depending on who you are and what your life experience is, you may have heard something a little bit different from Donald Trump. He was asked a question about why black voters should trust him given the things that he said. And he had some weird answers, including about Kamala Harris's multi-ethnic background.
Yeah, you know, I got to say, who the hell is Donald Trump to question Vice President Harris's blackness? You know, she is an accomplished woman who attended a historically black college, is a card-carrying member of the oldest African-American sorority in the nation, Alpha Kappa Alpha. She has proven she doesn't need to prove anything to him. It's the latest example of his disrespect that's often targeted at women in marginalized communities. And quite frankly, it's disqualifying for him to serve as our president. We need a leader who's going to bring people together, who's going to work to get things done. Donald Trump has proven time and time again he wants to separate us, and he wants to treat certain classes of people different. And we can't tolerate that. We have to fight for a candidate that's going to bring everyone together. And that's what Vice President Harris is going to do.
Which somebody like you has to do in a place like Pennsylvania, because you can't win an election in that state with one constituency. Obviously, we saw with Barack Obama in 2008, 2012, black people in major urban centers in Pennsylvania, like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, they responded very positively to that. But you just got a big, complicated state with lots of people. What is the message that you most want to hear from Kamala Harris? Not necessarily the one that's most appealing nationally, but the thing that's going to get you those electoral college votes in Pennsylvania.
You know, as I crisscross the Commonwealth, there are a few things that bind all of us together, regardless of where you're at, whether you're in rural Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, or Philadelphia. Everybody wants an economy that works for everyone, where everyone has the opportunity to have a family-sustaining job, to earn a livable wage, and to live the American dream. Everyone wants to make sure that we have safer communities. Vice President Harris has been leading on the Office of Gun Violence Prevention at the White House to make our communities safer. Her administration has delivered lower crime rates as opposed to the Trump administration, where we saw crime skyrocket. And people want to make sure that their children have a quality education. And so it's about making sure that everyone has those ladders of opportunity to succeed. I think the vice president is starting to lay out her case in her campaign that's not even barely 2 weeks old at this point. And folks are really going to rally, I believe, in Pennsylvania towards her vision, because ultimately those are the things that unite us. People just want the freedom to live the American dream, the freedom to make their own decisions for them and their family. Look, I'm the proud husband of a black woman, the father of a black girl, and I'm fighting for my daughter's future to make sure that she has the freedom to make her own reproductive health care decisions. And I think that's what every Pennsylvanian wants. Pennsylvania wants for them and their family. And I think the vice president has spoken to that over her time as an attorney general, a United States senator, and now as our vice president. And as our next president, she's going to deliver on those results.
What about Josh Shapiro? Does that help seal the deal if Josh Shapiro's her vice presidential candidate?
Well, let me tell you, I've known Josh Shapiro for years. He is a tremendous public servant. We are so lucky to have him serving as our governor here in the Commonwealth, and I'm proud and honored to be his governing partner and his lieutenant governor. I can tell you Josh Shapiro is going to be great no matter what he does, but ultimately the vice president is going to make a decision that's deeply personal to her about who is the person that she wants to serve as president and vice president with. And we're going to respect whatever decision she makes, but I'm proud to be Josh Shapiro's governing partner.
Lieutenant Governor, good to see you. Thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you so much for having me.